accounts were still high. I graduated from my faith the same time I graduated high school. I entered college with still a pretty low view of self. I thought I got lucky in my last 2 years of college, and that was just sort of things were going my way. But I was really afraid. I remember being afraid going back to college. Things were going to go back to the way they were. I remember sitting in a dorm room, in my buddy's dorm room, and my wife was there for the first time. She's staring at me. I just met her for the first time. She's staring at me, and I just thought there was something on my face. I couldn't figure it out. Why would a girl this beautiful staring at me? Turns out she was looking. She was liking me. Which was really a cool surprise for me. So after that, I went absolutely ballistic in college. I mean, I'm not going to get, again, not into specifics, but I was not making good decisions. Things that went from wild partying evolved into bar fights. I think I was just overcorrecting for not wanting to go back to that place that I was. And if you know me now, the idea of me being in a bar fight probably surprises you, but that was just something I was looking for back then, just to prove to myself that, and everybody else that you know, to project this sort of image. I think when I graduated college, looking back, I probably was clinically insane. If I actually looked at that, I was highly narcissistic. I went from having a really low view of self to a really high view of self. I mean, I never met a mirror I didn't like. I was talking to myself in the mirror, Ace handsome, you know, those kinds of things. Giving myself my own words of encouragement. Which is, the return from 1996 to about 2004. I never stepped foot in a church, maybe more than once, maybe for Christmas, and that was about it. Something happened though. My brother Jesse, in dealing with his own brokenness and trying to cope with that, went to California to pursue an acting career, and on his 18th birthday tried heroin for the first time. His life has really never been the same since. That heroin thing, I know that you get a lot of attention in that now, that is there's nothing else that I'm aware of that really accelerates the decay of the spirit, the mind, the body that heroin does. And we've seen that firsthand in our family, and we still, it comes and goes, but it is a powerful, powerful thing. That broke me, that wrecked me. I think I just felt like I was supposed to protect him. We were in the same situation. I didn't do that. I think that kind of wrecked me. So that wrecking, that softening, that softened my heart to the point where I wanted to go back to church again. So my parents were going to Grace Fellowship. Decided to go to Grace with them, and just sort of slowly going back to church. That brings me into this relational restoration sort of chapter in my life. It's been a series of aha moments, this journey. And just when I think I've kind of got it all figured out with how much there is to know, there's another aha moment that presents itself, this of how good God is and the things that He does for us. John Wooden has that quote that you're the same person today as you are 5 years from now, other than the people that you meet and the books that you read, some version of that. But basically, by taking information, by meeting other people, and reading material, is the only way you're really going to change yourself. And I found that to be true, especially on the relationship side at Grace Fellowship. There's two kinds of relationships I'm talking about in this situation. Your everyday relationships with your wife and your kids and your parents and your in-laws and your siblings, your coworkers, your friends. You're doing life with them. And then, if you're lucky, if you can find them, if you're looking for them, there's these other kinds of relationships. I'm calling these keystone relationships. These are kind of time out from life relationships. And Charles Dewey introduces the concept of a keystone habit in his book, The Power of Habit. Keystone habit, by the way, is small changes or habits that people introduce into their routines that unintentionally carry over into other aspects of their lives. So, you exercise, that's going to have a follow-on set of things that happen that are good for you. You eat better, you buy better, clothes that fit you better. I'm not sure if that's one, but keystone habit has a disproportionate, those habits that have a disproportionate positive impact compared to other habits that you can introduce into your lives. I believe that also plays a part in relationships. There are keystone relationships, meaning that there are those relationships that have a disproportionate positive impact on your life relative to the time that they spend with you compared to those other relationships. They all these relationships, the everyday ones and the keystone ones, they all influence you and shape you and mold you, especially the wife. I mean, my wife has just been, if it weren't for her, I think I'd be dead. I don't know where, she just keeps me together. She's just an amazing woman, Tara. But these keystone relationships are so awesome. I think I've had more access to those than most people get. And I don't know why that is. I actually think, my theory right now is because God knows that I've got a low emotional intelligence and a long learning curve. And he's like, okay, I'm going to send this dude to talk to Casey. He's still not getting it. All right, I'll send this dude. Oh, he's still not getting it. Okay, I'll have to send this guy now. And I think that's what's going on with this whole access to these keystone relationships. But these relationships are paradigm shifting, completely perspective changing in a relatively short period of time. The first one I had, I'm going to call this gentleman my hairpin turn mentor. He pulled up the proverbial car, he slowed it down, he said, get in. He turned the car around and hit this hairpin turn, and he got me going in a completely different direction. He's in the room tonight. Bill Minchin is over there to my right. He started off this whole thing in a group context. Men getting together in groups has been just an amazing transformative thing in my life. So he started off with that, and that evolved into a one-on-one thing for years. He spent a ridiculous amount of time with me. It was it was mostly in a business context. But you know, we don't compartmentalize Jesus. It just comes up in all different kinds of conversations, business, regular life. And those kinds of lessons would be taught as he's teaching you how to be better at business. If it weren't for Bill, I think our company, Hometown Healthcare, would be out of business. Because I was still just a crazy man and highly impulsive, didn't understand leadership. The things he taught me was, do what you say you're going to do. He taught me that your integrity is everything. He taught me that you don't just hire people because they have a pulse. And that was a lesson, because I was hiring a lot of people just because, hey, I like you, and you breathe, so I'll hire you. He also taught me how to do spiritual disciplines, how to pray, how to read the Bible, how to fast, not eat. My Italian side of my family thinks it's hilarious. You don't eat on purpose? What are you doing? They don't offend them. I don't know why. But anyway, so he taught me a ton of things and really cultivated in me a desire to grow in Christ. So I had a desire now to grow in Christ. I didn't have that before. To pursue, to be intentional about it. But I was getting it still uber wrong. I don't know how Tara even stays with me. One of the main lessons he taught me, and I never was thinking about divorce, but he made it clear, a guy like you doesn't get divorced. He said it in those kinds of ways. And I didn't want to let him down. And it just sort of sealed up this possibility that divorce would ever even become an option for me. And once that's sealed, you're focused on solving the problem relationally. And had he not said that to me, I don't know where I would be with my wife. Because I think in my mind, I don't know what I was thinking back then, but I probably was thinking, hey, 50% of the time it happens, could happen to me, we'll see what happens. That was probably my mindset. The way he said it sealed that up. That ain't going to happen for you. And that was just a crazy insight. So, on this point of the journey, how am I doing on time, by the way? I have no idea what time is it.
8:15.
Oh, good. Rock and roll. It's great. All right. Little checkpoint journey. Here's where I'm at in my thinking right now. I have a desire to grow in knowledge of Christ. I'm not really great at implementing these things yet. Casualties. There's some casualties for me not being far enough along in the journey. My dad, John, who I told you about, my biological father, he had moved back since. And I have this desire to grow now, and I'm talking to him about spiritual things, and I'm talking to him about Jesus, and he's saying things like, music is my religion. I'm just getting mad. Like, why would you say that? Music is religion. What does that mean? And then he'd say things like, all religions can all occupy the same space at the same time. And basically, you can be a Christian and believe Muslim. Those don't conflict with each other. And I was like, those doctrines are mutually exclusive. You can't say those things. And we would get into these battles. I would become so angry, and I did not handle that well. And I drove him further away as a result of me being an idiot interpersonally with him. Now, he ended up passing away in 2011. We had several encounters. None of those really went that well. On his deathbed, I asked the room to be cleared, and I prayed with him, and I asked him if he understood what I was saying. He kind of nodded his head. I don't really know what happened to this day, but I wonder if I had been more like Jesus in those conversations, would he have been more open? I always wonder those things, which gives me an urgency to want to grow and get this Jesus thing right. So, another keystone relationship. So Bill mentioned keystone relationship. Another one, Tim Owens. Tim Owens reached out to me and said, you want to join this small group? So myself and Tim, by the way, Phil Catchpole was in the Bill Lynch group. He's here too. But Tim Owens brings me, Alex Tronco, Paul Harding together, Brian Deeb, Jameson. No, I'm just like, that's it. All right, good. We all get together, and he starts teaching me that getting the Christian life right is all about how well and to what degree you love people, love God well, and love people well. That everybody's sacred to God. And that just because you disagree with them, you've got to be very tactful about how you handle that situation. If they don't like you at the end of that conversation, you just botch that. And if they're not more attracted to wanting to hang out with you again, and you're not handling them, you just botch that. And so he taught me the soft skills that go with that. He also taught us things like how to have a proper perspective about your wife. Sometimes I used to think, because I'm a hard charger and I want to be here and here and here spiritually and with our church, and Tara's like, slow down, you're overwhelming me, you're discouraging me, and she's saying these things. And he taught me that God gave me her for a reason, and she literally is the gap filler. I have a lot of gaps, and she fills them all, and that's the way she's supposed to be viewed, as a blessing. And I'm still working on getting that right. Kid perspective. I'm the only person on this planet that can be a father to my kids. That's a situation that's unique to me, and I've got to take that seriously. He taught me those kinds of things. These were just ridiculous paradigm shifts in the Christian life that Tim Owens brought in, and this group of guys brought in. He taught us how to unpack the scriptures, and the process for going through that making it go from your head and your mind to your heart there's things you can do, skills you can adopt that actually make that happen. So Tim, thank you. Journey checkpoint there. I realized what a blessing Tara was, my wife. Realized the importance that it's more important for me to have shared convictions with her than it is for me to find ways to agree with her, than it is for me to be at odds with her because I want to be here, and that's not even a mandatory thing. So that was just a journey checkpoint. Casualties of being on this season, I was still, and still can be, a very arrogant punk at times. And, working in the business with as many people that work there, we've had a lot of people leave our company over the years, largely because I am an idiot. And it came to a head when my brother, Aram, was leaving the company. And he's in the room today too, things are just not going well. This whole idea that if you're really getting this Christian thing right, you're going to be attracted to people. You're not going to be repelling people. And I was just looking at the outcomes of all of my interactions, and I was like, I wasn't getting what I wanted relationally. And I realized I had so much more work to do. So that was still going on. Third keystone relationship, Frank Dino. The aha moment with Frank. He taught me that my approach in life is perfectly designed to get the results that I'm getting. Basically saying, dude, it's all your fault. Whatever you want to say, you're at fault here if you're not getting what you want, and if you want relational peace, change. And so he taught me that, which again seals up the problem, so I can't start blaming anybody else. It all comes back to me, and I start having to solve that problem. He also taught me things about how to back. I can get really raised in that household with rules. You kind of look at things in a rule-centric way, and in the church world that can be real dangerous. But I always bring that in, and Frank, through his personality and his wisdom, got me to see that there's areas here I don't need to be so legalistic with, and that was just a huge piece. So these were amazing relationships. I learned stuff from my dad. My dad taught me about this concept about this the universal nature of brokenness. I never knew that before. He went on a trip to Nicaragua, and he looked out over this dump, and all these people were living on this dump, and he felt God telling him that he was that dump really physically represented the spiritual condition of our country, and it's just masked and whitewashed with affluence. What an amazing lesson. You start relating to people less as I'm more okay than you are, and more as, hey, I'm broken and you're broken. What a paradigm shift. I feel like I'm at the Grammys right now and the music's about to come on. So I'm going to wrap up. Right now, the difference between the Billy Graham moment and now is that now I have back then I was equipped, I understood the information, I agreed with it even. I wasn't ready to follow it. now. I want to follow it. I just not getting it as right as I think I will be 5 years from now and 5 years after that. There's this continual improvement piece. That's the biggest difference between then and now. I still don't listen as well as I need to. I still care way too much that you like me. It's really disgusting. Not that you should, anyway. I'm trying to learn to embrace progress over perfection. I'm still trying to learn how to be a better encourager to my family, my wife, and my kids. And I got a lot of work to do still there. But that is my story. Sort of an abrupt ending. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, guys, for listening.
Thank Casey for sharing. He was a lot to think about today. Really good wisdom. And guys, each time we come to this breakfast, we really want to express the appreciation for a man to stand up here in front of a room full of guys and be transparent. And talk about your losses as well as your wins, all for one purpose, not self-edification, but to help the men in the room. That's an incredible gift. Casey, thank you. Casey said a lot of things worth remembering today, but there was one statement that I really stuck with me.